Welcome back to this very special 1 hour episode of Journals of Supernatural Adventure. My name is Dakota Franson, and tonight is the time we take care of one of the biggest controversies known today. 2012 Doomsday. In the first half of the show, I was just getting into the various myths behind the 2012 phenomenon. In this half of the episode, it is time to provide a full analysis on what may happen in 6 days. I know I promised a reading from Nostradamus' prophecy, but we will try to fit that in later on in the program. We had a few last-minute changes to what we were going to talk about tonight. But right now, it's important to get the message out. So here is my official word on what will happen on December 21st. The Mayan calendar is actually a very unreliable source for doomsday rumors, since it is not the last calendar. Back in 1915, another calendar was found. However, research of this site was near impossible until some looters came along trying to sell something onto the black market. Now, exploration of the site has allowed for this particular calendar to be dated at least another 4,000 years into the future. And research of many other calendars helped that reach dates farther away from 2012. Now, of course, Nostradamus is actually a very well-known excuse of a coming disaster. The one excuse that is used most with his predictions that I found is the coming of the third and final Antichrist. Now, most skeptics would probably use some of the predictions he got wrong to discredit him. But there is an issue in that discreditation. When it comes to psychics, they are not an all-knowing source. They are human, and they are going to get something wrong. Now, even though he has done it repeatedly through various methods, there were a few of his visions that were wrong. There would be two reasons for this. Human nature, and a theory that I have tossed out in previous episodes. The fact that the future he saw was not the future of mankind that allowed itself to manifest. Nostradamus even stated in his journals that it is possible to change the course of the future during our present day. What we do now changes what will happen in the future. These actions actually lead to the creation of alternate universes. Perhaps in one of these timelines, Nostradamus is actually 100% correct. Also, if the world was going to end this year, wouldn't it make sense to stop writing prophecies? The bit on the coming of the third Antichrist resides in Century 8 of his prophecies. When he doesn't end his writings until Century 15. That is right. According to Nostradamus, the prophecy we have almost another 2,000 years before his prophecies come to an end. In fact, while I'm at this, if the world were going to end this year, wouldn't the Mayans have stopped making calendars? Answer me that one. Now, the astronomical alignment has some truth that has recently made the headlines. NASA has confirmed that during the winter solstice of this year, there will be an extremely rare astronomical event that happens to the planet. Now, this is actually an event that only happens about every 25,800 years. What will happen is that the Earth will pass through what is known as the Dark Rift. What is that? More after this message. Welcome back to Journals of Supernatural Adventure. Tonight is about addressing one of the biggest controversies in 2012, Armageddon. Now before the break, I was about to reveal that the Earth is in fact about to reach a very rare astronomical alignment that is more important than a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The Earth is about to pass through what is known as the Dark Rift, a line that splits the galaxy in half. Some people have tried to explain this off as NASA confirming that Earth will enter what would be dubbed as zero dimension before shifting into a fourth dimension. Now, little do they realize that zero dimension is used to describe a dot. Nothing more than a single dot. Everything is nothing more than a single speck. Everything happens one spot. However, despite what conspiracy says, we should be able to pass through the Dark Rift just fine. However, there is a chance for electromagnetic interference that could potentially damage electronics here on Earth for a few days. The same thing goes for the solar flares. If one is strong enough to hit the planet, it's more than likely that the worst case scenario would cause some difficulties for several species that have been dependent on the electromagnetic frequencies in order to get around. Like birds and bees, for example. However, since their ancestral lines have been through previous electromagnetic field disturbances, in fact, since humans have been through the last couple of these flips, it is likely that their DNA has adjusted to where if something does happen like this again, they'll be able to continue on with normal operation. In fact, it is documented that humanity has lived through quite a few of these. So if something were to happen to Earth's electromagnetic field, it would be easy to survive. However, there would be some issues due to the constant radiation exposure and heat, which is expected. Now, there is something else that is happening that could be a solution to this very problem, which we are going to get on later in the program. But now it is time to cover the major areas that have been used to make accusations for Doomsday. Another prophecy that a lot of people have been pointing to as possible outlets of information pertaining to the end of the world is what is known as the Bible Code. For those of you who don't know what Bible Code is, it is a series of hidden messages found in religious texts that could hold information to the coming future. Now, Bible Code is found through special computer software that calculates information using an inputted value. For example, let's say you pull up the software and you put in the word spider. What that software will then do is search through the religious texts it was designed to look for to find the word spider. However, it just doesn't look for random letters that appear and just happen to spell out the inputted word. But instead, what it will look for are the letters of the word spider that would be equidistant throughout a certain part of the text. This would mean that if the word spider comes up and the lettering happens, and the lettering would have to be about, for example, 3 spaces apart. Now, there are also a series of mathematical algorithms that help calculate whether or not the phrase is of significance, instead of just a random occurrence. There's also another theory that the results of Bible code say that the results of looking over this must be able to form a picture of some kind. And if this is true, then the only way someone could associate the lettering of biblical prophecy because it points out as a picture would be like how someone spots a constellation in the stars. Literally, it's the same basic concept right there. Now, Doomsday is not the only event that is said to be predicted by biblical code prophecy. The Kennedy assassination, the Roswell UFO crash, the results of the election which got President Obama into office. In fact, type his name into the software. You could get pretty much a play-by-play of his entire presidency because of how many times his name actually appears. Like Nostradamus, who foresaw the coming of Hitler, many of the world's wars, so much more, biblical prophecy actually holds a lot of ground to stand upon. Now, I'm not saying it is true, but here are my thoughts on the situation. Biblical prophecy never really says anything about the end of mankind. In fact, all it really tells about is a coming disaster that could cause some major issues. At most. The coming of the Antichrist would be a symbol for a coming war, as well as other predictions for the disasters. And as history will tell, it's not impossible to persevere through each one of these disasters. In fact, it is what we do to stay alive that determines the next stage of humanity. And to be honest, I'm not too sure what to think about biblical prophecy, because I'm just going to drop this little hint, and we're going to work this into a coming project, is that biblical prophecy may have actually seen us coming. I will reveal more during the Christmas break lockup on what that means. Now, speaking of the next stage in humanity, there is something else happening that many point to biblical prophecy to use as an explanation. In fact, a cure for many diseases could appear because of it. Across the world, there have been reports of strange children being born, not because of a physical deformity that can potentially threaten their survival, but because of abnormalities that go beyond current understanding. Now, I'm not talking about children born with the ability to see in the dark because their eyes are adjusted weird, or rare deformations in birth deformities such as functioning extra limbs. I am talking about more internal changes. A few years ago, some reports of children who could potentially never get sick have started to pop up. Of course, we have the occasional little one that has a better than most immune system. But that is not what I'm talking about. In fact, what I'm talking about, according to our understanding of medicine and illness, is about the complete opposite. These particular children were born with AIDS. What is weird about these children is that by the time they reach about the age of 6, there are no traces of the virus in their system. In fact, there's no trace of anything illness related in their systems. So, naturally, curiosity would appear, and what the doctors did was take some samples of his blood to test to see if he could be carrying something that could potentially cure AIDS. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets interesting. The test they put his blood samples through resulted in exposure 3,000 times the strength needed to affect a person with cancer, AIDS, and several other diseases. And still, the cells showed no change whatsoever. Not only that, but another spike has appeared in children. A spike in psychic children. With these kids, you could crumple up a page from a book, stick it under their armpit, and they will still be able to read the entire page, word for word. Now, whether or not you believe in psychics, you have to admit, that's pretty impressive. Almost like how psychic abilities are shown in superhero movies. Of course, this just goes to show that what could be coming up may actually just end up being something really good. So with all these theories, what would be the safest to expect on the 21st if something were to happen? More after this message. Are you in Idaho enough to read about what may be lurking in the shadows? Do you like to hear about spooky tales from what history has left behind? Or do you love to read about the myths and legends from around the globe? Whatever your preference may be, something has come that will ease your desire for knowledge of the unknown. Be sure to buy yourself a copy of Hauntings of the Snake River Plain by various Idaho authors, now available in ebook formats on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold. Don't have extra cash laying around to get yourself a copy? Borrow it from a friend or head to your local library. From the area. If the book is checked out, then try the Idaho History Room to read it while you are there, if that is, you're in Idaho. Why? Well, the Paranormal Radar Force founder, Dakota Franson, has been interviewed for this very book. If you happen to see him, or one of the many authors, feel free to come up and ask us to sign. We won't buy it. Welcome back to Journals of Supernatural Adventure. My name is Dakota Franson, and tonight it is time we take on the allegations of a coming doomsday. Before the break, I was just getting into how the coming changes may end up being a very good thing for humanity. What will happen to humanity? Where is our destined path going to lead us? And much more, starting now! Taking all the theories into consideration, I have developed a theory myself on what could happen if the 21st lived up to its hype. This theory contains 3 possible outcomes, each of which will lead into a struggle for humanity. Taking into consideration the protests and other conflicts around the world, it is not that far-fetched of an idea to say that another world war could begin near that date. In fact, it is safe to say that many world leaders are actually afraid of that fact in itself. Now, technologies these days have become so much more advanced that the planet may not be able to survive it, leaving it nothing but a desolate area. The second is the chance of a polar shift, solar flare, or passing through the dark rift, or possibly some sort of weird combination of the events, knocking out various electrical systems and methods of travel that various animals use to make use, which would make things very difficult, but not impossible to adjust to. Excuse me. The third idea is that many people that are holding concerns about over what could happen will end up bringing forth a mass suicide along with widespread actions of violence caused by complete stupidity. Lots of people are concerned about what could happen on the 21st, to the point that they are willing to take their own life just to avoid it. Plus, we all know that in times of disaster, some jerks tend to think up the idea that to use the confusion to commit horrible crimes while no one is able to stop them. Like the recent elementary school shooting in Connecticut. Because the guns are banned on the premises, in the animalistic mind, that would be an ideal place to attack. Less resistance. I know this is a sensitive issue, being that this is a new event, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the families affected. But the thing that gets me about this event is that several children who would think of life as nothing more than eating, sleeping, and playing. And plus, they are just getting ready to start counting down the days until Christmas, when they could open their eyes to that morning to presents underneath the colors of a tree, had to lose their lives because a shooter was upset at his mommy. The sad part about the shooter is that he was just in his 20s. As many have been concerned that a lot of younger people are about to get real stupid. They're going to end up pulling something at the worst time of year. So, I would like to take a moment to say something in respects to those affected or about to be affected by the idiocy that has been allowed to flourish in our society. To those of you who have preached about the end of the world, what are you going to do when the numbers come in from people who have died because of your allegations? Huh? You going to just sit there smiling like an idiot because you held some truth? Now, I will admit, pulling a prank to scare some people can be fun at times. But when somebody starts to get violent or emotionally concerned to the point of self-harm, you have gone too far. Sorry. My throat's dry. I think I'm starting to get a cold. But here's another thing that gets me. Why is it that those who fight against the original attacker are considered to be the evil one? Now, I have a feeling that my ranting could lead on due to some personal involvement in this matter. So I am just going to say this. Society, knock off the crap. You have allowed images of self-harm, recklessness, and utter stupidity to be exploited, which now threatens several lives. Constantly threatening others, trying to bully others, using your beliefs to cause violence, while many people are mourning over the death of their loved ones. And taking out your emotions on innocence. Or even allowing previous abuse to manifest in the original victim, making him the attacker. Ever think about what constantly exploiting? Anyway. Well, we are running out of time. Before I go, I would like to announce something. This is the last broadcast of 2012. The Paranormal Raider Force will now officially be going under team lockup from now until the end of January. During this period, we'll be revamping our presence, online and begin working on the top secret project, Operation Sunset Rose. The reasoning behind our timing is to allow for extra time for me to study for final exams. Plus, as part of schooling during the month of January, it will be used as a time for students to solely study on whatever they want. I thought it would work out better during this time frame. Now you'll still be able to talk to us. We'll try to see you in February. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, whatever. Goodbye, everyone. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a safe New Year.